And we're in. How you doing, Lily? Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, keeping busy, avoiding fires,
Yes,
trying to
yes.
understand like the aftermath of everything.
It's been crazy. I had to flee last minute. I was on a plane and the fires had not yet started, but the winds were like crazy. So I was like clutching my seat the whole time and the plane was like swinging back and forth. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die.
So you were on a plane the night that the Palisades fire happened.
Yes, a few hours before it broke out. So I was, got out last minute, landed, and then I switched out my flight mode and then I saw what had happened. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna get stuck here. So,
Could you could you see it from the air?
when I came back, yes, I could. It was still happening. I think it was the Hearst fire that was still happening,
Mm.
above Burbank, but, I did not see the other fires now. Did you?
So being here during the fires, it was really strange because you come out of like West Hollywood, Beverly
Mm.
Hills, and you look like west along not Sunset so much, but Santa Monica because it's quite flat. And or Wilshire, and you could just see this like huge plume of smoke where the Pacific Ocean would
I
is, right?
saw the pictures. Wow. Was that helpful to you as a photographer? Like, it's
It was kind of strange because there was this like false sense of security of like
Mm,
being in Beverly Hills or West
mhm.
Hollywood, but Pacific Palisades is only like a 15-minute drive away, but somehow it felt like a totally different world. And and then and then the winds brought in some ash and stuff like that, but we never got like the really toxic smoke
Mm,
coming in. So
mm.
because all the it was the one great thing about this, if you can have any kind of silver lining, is all that toxic, nasty smoke went out over the ocean and not
Mhm.
back over the city,
Oh,
right?
thank God, yeah.
Um, so that can, those kinds of situations can lead to, yeah, chest
Yeah.
infections, cancer, pneumonia, everything like that.
But it looked like the apocalypse. Like, when I watched the pictures from the news, I'm like, "This is insane."
It is insane. And you're from a different country and I'm from a different country and we're
Yes.
both here in LA trying to make it.
Yeah. I'm like, "This happened after COVID and the strike." I'm like, one more slap in the face, really.
Really.
Yeah.
But so I want to get into, your career
Mhm.
and how you eventually got here and stuff like that. But let's go way back to the beginning. So where are you from?
I was born in the south of Sweden and, grew up there north of Gothenburg, if you know what that is. It's in the south, and I came here in January of 2019, so it's been, like this is my 6th I've been here over 6 years, so, like, this is the beginning of my 7th year, in the States, and it's been a journey so far, but yeah, that's where I came from, that's my roots. And yeah, it's been strange, leaving my whole world behind for a new country, new culture, different language. It's hard, and I'm sure you can feel the same way as somebody who also I sure, like, uprooted your life to move here, right?
Yeah, I moved to China when I was 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why China?
I took a class on Chinese history and politics
Mm,
in university, and then when I graduated university, I was kind of lost and I didn't
mhm,
know what I wanted to do. I played basketball and stuff like that, and then when
mhm,
basketball ended, I kind of had this like huge withdrawal, depression, everything like that, and I didn't
mhm.
know what to do. So I was just like, well, I took one or two classes on China. I'm just going to go to China and like figure out life.
Wow, which part did you go to?
So I settled in Shanghai, and that was great.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, wow.
and I was there for 18 years.
Was that where you started your photography, or was that later?
No, I started my photography career in Shanghai, and then I also, kind of graduated into making adventure television shows, from Shanghai as well.
Wow, that must have been a journey. Wow.
It was, yeah, it was a shocker because like, no one in I don't think anyone in my family has ever really left Canada.
Same. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, well, sweet in my case, but it's funny when you leave your whole world behind, like, you just have to grow so fast, and I think people who get stuck just don't never get to experience that joy and that thrill as complex as can be, right? But I think that when you do leave everything behind, you learn so much, and you have to figure things out on the fly, and it's just very healthy, I think.
It was so nice to start fresh.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
yeah, and just like, leave behind everyone who knows anything about you. It's not like I was running from some major crime or some massive scandal like a lot of Hollywood stars are leaving, the United States these days using
Mhm.
Trump as an excuse, but
Right.
actually they're just getting out of Dodge anyways, before all the P Diddy information comes out.
Right.
But no, it was great to kind of like be in a place where you could build your own life again. So it was really rewarding and very freeing.
Yeah, gets a fresh perspective on things for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in southern Sweden? Like we all have these ideas of Scandinavia. It's all, very peaceful. Everyone, lives kind of amongst this wonderful equality, high taxes,
Mhm.
no political leaders chirping off their mouth every 5 minutes, making people crazy. So what was it like?
It's peaceful for sure, and I'm very grateful. I think the longer I've lived here, the longer I sort of see that side of it. Like, yes, it's beautiful, and I'm very blessed, and I'll never take that privilege for granted for sure. Um, Culturally, it's quite, like, isolated, I'd say, like, compared to most other cultures. I mean, my dad lives down in Spain, and my, stepfamily is Catalonian, and it's just a very different culture, right? And they're more social and, there's more of a sense of, like, community and family. We don't really have that much in Sweden. It's quite you kind of have to learn to be isolated, I think is very common. And so that's been a huge thing for me to adjust to, like, learning how to small talk and 'cause when I first got here, the first time that I went into a grocery store, this like desk clerk asked me how my day was. And I'm like, that's not, no, like, you don't care. Because you never small talk with people in Sweden. And I was like, I felt flattered at first. I didn't realize that no, they're just like reading from a script or whatever. But it's been an adjustment. I have a lot of love for Scandinavia. I think that there's so much about that country or those countries that really work. Sadly, it's going backwards right now with, with politics and everything. Um,
We can always rely on politicians to take us back a few notches.
yes, absolutely. It's crazy because I was back there for the last election in 2022, and the right side won, which had not happened in many, many years. And so that was a bit of a like, whoa, like things are really, we can't take it for granted either because it can easily kind of fracture.
Mm.
But overall I've been very, very blessed to grow up there, and yeah, I love Gothenburg a lot. It's my favorite place on the planet for sure.
I had a few friends from Australia way back in the day when I lived in Shanghai. We all played rugby together, and they worked for who did they work for? They worked for Volvo in
Mm.
China, and then they went and worked for Volvo in Gothenburg. So that's the only reason I know where that place is because my friend and his wife or girlfriend or at the time ended up getting transferred back out there, and they lived in Sweden for I think like a decade before they went back
Wow.
to Australia, and they loved it. They said it was beautiful, and the people were super nice, and everything was like really clean and orderly, and just the kind of like the total opposite of Shanghai, which at that time was complete chaos because the city was growing so fast, right, and building itself up.
Yeah, no, I mean, Gothenburg is really laid back culturally, and people are very kind of like down to earth and grounded compared to like other parts of Sweden. Like Stockholm can be very sort of elitist, but Gothenburg is more like laid back, and people are very open and honest. And yeah, I miss that for sure. LA can be, sometimes it can be the opposite. It can be very plastic.
I don't even know what LA is because
Oh, it's everything.
it's so big and there's so many people and there's so many like neighborhoods and districts and it's
Mm.
hard to know where it stops and where it ends. Like if you go from LA all the way down to San Diego, it's just like urban sprawl. Like the city doesn't stop. And then if you go out to like I go to Palm Springs quite a bit because that's
Mm.
where my dad lives. And I drive out to Palm Springs and it's urban sprawl all the way out to Palm Springs, but that's not part of LA, but it could easily be.
Right.
It just doesn't stop.
And it's, every little neighborhood has its own like culture, and it's, it, I have a love and hate relationship with the city. I think some parts are beautiful. So many wonderful artists just really live for art,
Hmm.
but the industry at large can be quite toxic. So it's like you have to find your your way in and find the people that you can trust and that feel are committed to telling stories or like creating art for real reasons and not just obsessed with fame or whatever. Like it's a hard thing to find, I think, but it's out there for sure. It's like it's a large industry and lots of different people in it.
Hmm.
But it can be, a bit of a culture shock to come in as an outsider and, you just don't know if people are like gonna be authentic to you. Like it's a toxic industry for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And a city full of toxic people in some
Yes.
ways.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
we're just trying to podcast our way through it, really.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so you're growing up in Gothenburg, southern Sweden.
Mhm.
You're going to high school. Like, did high school have a film and television department? Like, was that something you were interested in back in the day?
I lived like an hour north of Gothenburg in a small town. The town itself was quite like I would say pretty big in it. I did go to a dance academy for instead of high school, and they had some other disciplines. They had media, they had music, and some other disciplines too. But I found my way to film way later. It was like after I kind of wrapped up my dance thing, which I did around the age of like 19 or 18. And so I found my way to film after that through just watching movies.
That's it, just watching movies.
One in particular, The Imitation Game came out in 2014, if you've seen that movie with, Cumberbatch and Knightley.
Right, that's,
Alan Turing, it's a biopic about Alan Turing
right,
who
this the
yeah, the Enigma machine, yeah, and it just blew my mind. That, script just, like, God, it's changed my life. There are so many great match cuts in it, and I just had to know how to, like, do that, and so I became obsessed with the screenplay, read it, broke it down, taught myself English to be able to, like, reverse engineer it, and, yeah, it just became the sort of starting point of my screenwriting obsession.
that's crazy, and that was all after high school?
It was during high school, or during my time at the dance academy, but, yeah, that just took my life in a different direction.
Mm, wow,
Yeah.
The Imitation Game.
What a beautiful movie.
Really, yeah, Alan Turing and Enigma machine, and they were breaking the Nazi codes in World
That's the
War II,
code,
right?
yes, to be able to I think it says where each, like, German U-boat was, and, yeah, the amount of beautiful, like, match cuts and the transitions in the movie is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Dialogues are fantastic too.
I can't like, Benedict Cumberbatch is, like, a really great actor who I feel like hasn't won any awards, like, he didn't even I don't even think he was nominated for
He
that.
was nominated, but I forgot who won that year. I think it was, Eddie Redmayne, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
Or the Danish
probably.
Girl, yeah, or Danish Girl, yeah. But, yeah, he deserves more credit for sure. He's a really good actor.
Yeah. I love that, Sherlock series that he did on with BBC back in the day.
Oh, yeah, I think that was his first ever, like, real break, right?
No, 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 he had done some movies before that.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and him and, I can't remember the other actor in that, series,
Martin Freeman, I think?
no, 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 he's a shorter white guy, um, Martin Freeman.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Did you say Morgan Freeman
No,
or Martin?
Martin
Oh,
Freeman.
okay. I thought you said Morgan Freeman. I'm like,
No,
no,
2 Freemans.
that's wild. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So you saw a movie, then you dug up the script and broke it down
Yeah.
and taught yourself like how to write.
Yes, pretty much, yeah, and then I applied to film schools after that, but, that movie I was closeted to at the time, and, it's a queer movie, and so I was obsessed with it for that reason too, and I started, like, we had English classes growing up, like, I would learn some stuff in school, but it was more like cat and dog and, like, street and, things you can't really make a sentence with, so I started breaking down screenplays, and I created glossaries, and then I had a bunk bed growing up, so I'd print them, and I would tape them to my ceiling and wake up and stare at the glossaries and just go through, each word, and eventually I had, like, enough of a knowledge of the language to be able to, like, start writing, and, yeah, screenplays kind of gave me that intro, and so, that movie, gosh, I will always remember that time that I saw it for the first time.
I think now I need to rewatch it. I think everyone listening needs to
You
rewatch it.
should, I think everybody should, it's a beautiful movie.
So what do you do when so you're in high school, you find this love of screenwriting and
Mhm.
movies, and then what do you do when you graduate?
Well, I was gonna move to London, initially to work in film industry, but then I started applying to film schools in the States, and I got into, NIFA in Burbank,
Mhm.
and I was like, "You know what? It's different from what I thought, but, like, it is in Hollywood, I might as well just, like, see where it gets me." And, I'm glad that I made that choice because, I mean, London's gonna still be there if I wanna work in the industry, back in Europe, but there's something about LA, and I think there's something about, like, the diversity here, and I just wanted to give it a shot, and so I was like, I'm gonna do it." So I moved across the world for that, and then I, thank God, got to stay. I was able to get, work after that, which is rare, like, especially as an immigrant. Getting your first job after, film school can be impossible.
Yeah, it's crazy how they kick you out after they educate you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, you spend all this money. They're like, "Well, take the money, but leave." It's it's frustrating because I had to pay for myself and stuff too. But, I was able to stay, and I got a job in post-production and, got to sort of know the industry from that sort of standpoint, and then I was able to go back to college for a longer, bachelor of fine arts degree, also in screenwriting, also at NIFA, and then I graduated from there, worked again in management, and that time around, I was able to get the O-1 visa, the artist visa, and so
I've got one of those.
oh, yeah, they're hard to get, but I'm like, "Thank God."
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it's such a maze to navigate the industry as an artist, but it's, if you have a love for it, if it's your life, you don't really have a plan B. So you have to do it.
I think the United States should give any graduate who graduates from a university or college here in the United States, I think they should give them like an automatic like 5-year visa to do whatever they want, because I think it would just promote entrepreneurialism. And it's so stupid to bring all the smartest people from the world here and then educate them and give them a network and give them promise, and
Yeah.
then kick them out. Like it boggles
Right.
my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. I also want to say that, like, I'm also very blessed to be able to have paperwork in the first place. There are so many immigrants that don't, and so, like, I feel like immigration can be very tough to navigate, but I'm one of the most, like, privileged people to go through it. So, I want to be conscious of that too. But it's true. Like, it's hard and it's always going to be, challenging. And we just don't know what's going to happen now with Trump. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
We'll see.
yeah, for sure.
Gulf of America, Canada, the 51st state.
Oh, yeah, I saw that in Greenland too. He wants Greenland, and they were like, "We'll let you visit, but that's it."
It's very strategic, actually. If you've ever played Risk, Greenland and Iceland are very important.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So you're 18 or 19, you
Mhm.
graduate high school,
Mm,
and then like it's London or LA. Like that's a huge difference. Like first of all, weather-wise,
yeah.
that's and also too, I guess Gothenburg to London is what, like an hour and a half instead of like 12 hours.
Yeah, yeah, it's a long flight, and it's a, time difference is crazy, and, it's a huge cultural shift too. I think London and Sweden are more, like, closely connected culturally, but America's very different,
Very, yeah.
very different.
So what other schools did you apply to when you came out here? And where did you apply in the UK? Because I'm not even very familiar with any like film schools in the UK.
I actually never applied to any film schools in London. I just I was gonna move there and sort of just find work and then eventually apply. But I'd found like it was, I think, right before Brexit, so like I could still go there without like navigating insane, like, logistics. But
How easy was it when the UK was part of the EU?
you just move there and then that was it. I mean, I think you had to have like a visa appointment or something, but that was pretty much it. Like, if it was easier. But
I love how they sorry, I love how they pushed Brexit
mhm.
and being like, we're going to be more financially independent. We're going to have our own immigration rules. We're going to do this. We're going to,
Right.
and then they got Brexit, and then it's been a mess for like a
And they're like,
decade.
oops. What did we do? I'm like, "You should have researched it before you voted for it."
Yeah. I mean, it got so bad that that was around the time my brother left. So my brother was living in London,
Oh, wow.
and he was loving it. And then the Brexit came, and
Mhm.
he was in he was in business and investing and raising money and all this stuff. And there was so much uncertainty around Brexit that no one wanted to invest, no one wanted to spend money, no one wanted to do anything until people figured out like how all the dominoes would fall and
Oh,
like
yeah, the pound dropped
yeah.
very fast, yeah.
So he's just like, fuck it, I'm getting out of here. So he just left.
I do not blame him. He's like, "I'm done.
Yeah. That was
I'm
tough.
done."
But so you got into school out here. So which school did you get into?
NYFA, the New York Film Academy in
Okay.
Burbank.
And what was that like?
I learned so much from the faculty. The faculty are, industry professionals. They've worked for shows. They've been staffed on multiple shows. They've, worked with big people. So, like, I learned a lot from the faculty. I think from the students, like, it was hard because a lot of people just had a lot of money and they just didn't really care about the craft. They were like, the stakes were not very high for them. And I think, like, when you have to pay for it yourself, you have to earn it, like, you automatically care more about it. And so, it was a it was challenging at first because I didn't really find that tribe of people who, like, loved writing as much as I'd hoped to. AFI is very different. AFI is like a whole other world. Like, people are, really, really pushing themselves, which I love. It can be challenging and sometimes too much, but I do prefer that to, if I'm sorry to my old school, but I do prefer AFI to NIFA for that reason.
Well, it's a little different too, right? Like I think
Mm.
AFI is more of like a postgraduate program, and it's
Yes,
everyone's a little
yeah,
bit
it's
older.
master's. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
A little bit more mature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people have, like, they've been working in the industry for sometimes decades before they even get in. Like, some people are, like, in their 40s, 50s, and they've worked in the industry on multiple big sets, or they've worked for big people, and they just wanna learn the craft, and excel even more than they already have. And so people have experience, and they bring that experience to campus, which is a very different experience from, like, being completely like a fish out of water and not knowing how the craft works. Yeah, so I prefer A5 for that reason.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I just was helping one of my post-production
Mm.
partners with an application for AFI just a few months ago. Yeah,
Which discipline?
directing.
Directing. Oh, that's one of the hardest to get into.
Yeah, so this is a great partner that I've worked with for many years, and he did all my like post-production editing and stuff like that. But he wants to take it up on another level and actually start directing. He's directed a bunch of shorts and stuff like that, so he's really
Yeah.
working towards kind of
Mhm.
getting to the next level.
It's a great school for that. I mean, they're really, really, really strict, and we're, like, always on campus, you know? But it is worth it, I would say. If it's your love and it's your life and you just don't have a plan B, go for it.
So, what was it like leaving Sweden and then arriving in had you ever been to the United States before?
I'd visited New York once, a few years before that, but I'd never been to LA. I'd never seen the other states, and I've seen pretty much all of them, but, or half of them. But, it was a huge culture shock for sure.
Going from a small town in southern Sweden to
Little
Los
town
Angeles?
to one of the largest cities in the world, yes, huge. And, like, the year after I moved here, COVID hit, and so I was completely alone, and that whole time was, like, the scariest time of my life. Like, I, was brand new to this continent, and I didn't really know anybody, and this big coronavirus hit, and it was, I was trapped here without knowing anybody, and I got my job in post-production, like, a few months before it started, and I was lucky that I got to keep it. That paid my bills throughout the whole thing, but, it was a challenge 'cause, it was for everybody, right? But I was just so lonely that whole time, and so my first year was shit. Shit. But, I stuck it out because 'cause I'm like, It's challenging now, but if I just keep putting in the work, eventually something will happen," you know? I've always had that, like, unfounded belief in myself that something it'll work itself out, and so
That's good though. Like karma does come around, right? If
I
you
think
treat people
so.
well and try to do the right thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so for sure, but yeah, the first year was a huge adjustment. 2nd year was easier. 3rd, 4th year, like, that's when it started getting good. Yeah, but it took me years to get there for sure.
Have you adjusted to driving around LA?
I actually don't have a car.
Okay.
Yeah,
Super
so
smart.
well, it's cheaper, but it's a hassle because like, you have to spend more time getting around, but I'm fine with that. I'm pretty used to it by now, but I can't wait for the day that I can just get a car and drive.
And then wait in traffic everywhere.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Yeah. I was speaking to a writer yesterday actually
Mhm.
on the podcast, and he was just telling me like there was one time in his career where he was living in the valley, and he got like a great job in Santa
Mm.
Monica,
Oh,
and it was like an hour and a half each way of driving every day just to
oh,
go to
just to
his
get to work?
yeah.
Wow.
And then on top of that, he was doing like 8, 10, 12 hour days. And I think that's a story like a lot of people live in LA, and
Yeah, that's
that's
just the
really
reality. Like, if you really have a dream and a passion, it's worth it. If you don't, what are you doing to yourself?
yeah, it's pretty bleak. So that must have been like a pretty rude awakening that, you take this huge leap in your life to move to the US and then you arrive right in time for COVID.
It was a strange experience, and, people back in Sweden didn't really feel the, I think, weight of the pandemic because they never wore the masks.
I love that Sweden said, "Fuck it, COVID is
It's,
not a thing."
I think, the only country on the planet that did that, and I'm like, "What? What?"
Actually, there's 2.
Oh, 2? Really?
Belarus that we don't think very highly of now because they're invading Ukraine with Russia,
Oh,
which is a
right.
problem,
Mhm.
and Sweden.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah, no, my family was like, "What's a mask?" So, like, everybody here is wearing them, like, like, it was I mean, I could see the nuance in both arguments for sure,
Mhm,
but I was a bit, like, confused that no one back home even sort of felt the effects of it.
mhm.
It was like a utopia, like, sort of free from it. I mean, people still died from it, but, I think what it is, though, is people just don't like, we don't stand too closely to each other anyway in that culture. It's not a very, like, intimate culture,
Mhm.
and so we never needed that 6 feet apart rule because that
Which was bullshit.
right, yeah, but,
Yeah.
I mean, people always, like, we never hug, like, we never it's not a very cozy culture, and so I think that's how we got around it without needing, like, insane rules that you would need here or, like, in other countries. So that was probably what happens there.
So, yeah, so we were talking, off camera earlier. So I was filming in, Ethiopia
Right.
when the world closed down.
Mhm.
So that was March. So I was in Saudi Arabia and Russia in January 2020, and then I went to Myanmar, filmed in Myanmar February 2020, And then March 2020, I was in Ethiopia in the Simien Mountains.
Wow, so out in the, like, wilderness.
Yeah, I was about I don't know, it was like a 10 or 12-hour drive from Addis Ababa, which is the capital. And then we were like 6 days into like a 12-day shoot, and we had to pull the plug and run.
Wow. Where'd you run?
So it was funny. I was offline for about 2 days because we were down in these valleys and we didn't have a signal. And then we got up to the top of a mountain, and our guides got up there first because they're super fit. And they were like making some tea and boiling some water. And they're like, "Sit down, guys. We'll have some tea up here because we have a signal. We
Mm.
can get some news and figure out what's going on in the world." And I got up to the top, turned on my phone, and then it just blew up. It's like I had really no idea what was going on. And then I was living in Dubai at the time, and then
Wow.
and then Dubai closed their borders to residents, which was a bit of a slap in the face. They allowed
Mm.
passport holders to come back to Dubai, but not residents. Um, so then, um, so then I didn't want to go back to Canada because I was working on quite a few projects in the region. One big one in Saudi Arabia, which we were trying to get over the line. And so I ended up going to Turkey, which was like the last country in the world to close their international borders.
Wow. How
So
long were you stuck there for?
So I was in Istanbul for about 4.5 months before I could get out and get back into filming. And then I actually filmed all of summer 2020. And then we got locked down again in November 2020 in Europe. And then I ended up going back to Dubai, and I haven't made television since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because of that reason, or you just waiting for next project?
I'm waiting for a few things to come
Mhm.
together, but I've
Mhm.
also lost my whole team. So the key, like I made about 50 hours of adventure stuff over like a 10-year period.
Mhm.
And I had the same team basically for the whole time. And that helped us so much by just keeping the continuity of the quality and stuff like that. And it
Wow.
helped me out a lot too, because I didn't have to repeat myself, and I was
Mhm.
directing and producing and hosting. So it was a lot. But it was great, and I love the guys. They're like brothers. But then COVID hit, and my company kind of fell apart, and then we all had to kind of go our separate ways. So I'm waiting now to line up like a few projects where I can sustain a crew again for many years so we can really get back into it.
Can I ask what you were filming? Was it like for a documentary, or was it what was it about?
So I make adventure travel shows all around the world. So I was a photographer for the New York Times and
Mm.
stuff for about 10 years, covering China exclusively almost. And then after that, I started making the TV shows. And so I make 3 shows. One is called Tough Rides, where I ride a motorcycle all
Mhm.
around a country. So I did that in China, India, and Brazil. And then we filmed another series called Extreme Treks on BBC, where I go climbing and trekking all around the world.
That
And
sounds so dope.
it was pretty fun, actually. Like, so one season of Extreme Treks, we filmed in like Russia, Iceland, Laos, Papua New Guinea, Bolivia, Argentina, Jordan, and Uganda.
Wow.
So it was really diverse locations. It was really, really
Yeah.
simple.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're gonna have so many stories from your deathbed.
I've got them now. I don't have to die.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But and then I made another show called The Nomad, where I kind of, it's like these urban centers where I hang out in between my adventures, and I
Mhm.
hang out with like Michelin star chefs and bartenders and artists, and kind of understand what is like who's the tastemakers of these cities that are happening. So I made a few of those, but we actually started filming that during COVID. But we're gonna get back into that this year.
Wow. What got you into that, like, that whole world? Like, what made you wanna travel the world like that?
I think going to China when I was 22
Mm.
really opened up my
Mhm.
eyes, and then I did so I went to China when I was 22, and I worked for a bit, and I learned a little bit what was going on, but then I saved up enough money, and then I actually went from Hong Kong to Istanbul over
Mhm.
land. So I went China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, um, Iran, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey. And that was like the first big international trip that I had done where I was like crossing borders all the time. And I did the whole thing by bus basically. Like
Whoa.
I had like no money, but it was amazing. And then I was just like, I want to do this for my life. Like, what do I need to figure out how to do? So then I started writing and doing photography, and then that helped a lot in China. And then when that business kind of didn't work out anymore, I really I knew in my mind I could make TV. So then I just started trying to do that.
That's incredible. Like, what's the if you look back at the whole journey, what do you think has, like, been the best part of it so far?
I think like 2016 to 2020 was
Mm.
pretty epic.
Pre-pandemic?
We were rocking and rolling. Like we were a pretty tight group, and we were
Mhm.
making a lot of good stuff. So that was, I mean, we even did a massive series in Tencent that was all in Chinese, all about grandmas cooking and stuff like,
Wow.
yeah. So, and I used the same guy, same crew,
Mhm.
and it was just, it was really nice. And then, so since then, like a lot of documentary or factual departments have like completely disappeared. because they're not the biggest revenue generators, so they're easy to cut, and everyone just, focused on scripted stuff, and then no one wants to hear, no one wants, 10 different adventure shows. They all just want, one adventure show with Chris Hemsworth in it or something like that. So now we're trying to, get people into having a variety of storytellers,
Mhm.
and it's coming back, but it's been a slow run.
I can imagine since the strikes, it must have been quite like hard to keep, getting anything moving,
Yeah.
Or was it?
Well, I mean, I self-fund my own shows, and I use, corporate partners and stuff like that. So when it comes to the corporate partners, and they really need to have, a stable economy for them to invest and spend money, and of course, the last, 4 or 5 years has been a complete joke. So I'm not too reliant on what's going on in Hollywood, because the people in Hollywood don't really pay me to make stuff,
Mhm.
but I get money from other places, and then I publish through the Hollywood folks.
I think that's becoming the new model anyway, I think that's way smarter.
So more freedom.
More freedom, more creative license, right? So I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you went to film school in
Mm.
LA. Did you know right away, you just wanted to write?
I want to direct too eventually, but I think a lot of writers like we want to start just knowing the story, like understanding how the craft works, because everything starts with that. Like if you don't know your log line, you don't know your story, and if you don't know your story, you'll pick the wrong angles to dramatize that story, right? So I think I want to branch out eventually. But I do want to have a fully grasp of like this is what the craft is, and that just takes years and years and years to learn.
Yeah.
But I'm committed to that. I want to like spend the next maybe decade of my life just being a writer and then like branching out eventually. But yeah, I writing is my life and yeah, it's going to be my number one passion for sure. Even if I do branch out eventually, that's going to be my number one like, you know, hearts down for sure.
Well, if you're a writer and you can visualize the scene, you can direct.
That's true. I think yeah, I think once you know like how to break down a scene and once you know how the craft works, once you know how like where the turning points are, what you're building towards, then the rest is not easy, but it is easier if you know the heart of the story before you try to get technical about it.
Yeah. Like having those emotional beats that you got to hit.
Yeah, yeah, and like every aspect of filmmaking has to like, hit the same beats, right? So you have to understand like what is this beat? How is this beat serving the story, and how can I best articulate that, and how can we play around with like color and like camera angles to or movement to really heighten that beat. And that just comes with like it just takes years and years and years to like understand and wrap your head around. And I'm sure you feel that same way.
A little bit, yeah, it can be tough. So when you were doing your undergrad or your first
Mhm.
round of film school, like you told me you got a few jobs in post production and stuff like that. So what was it like working in post production when all you wanted to do was be a writer?
It was challenging. On the fun side, I got to watch everything before it came out, because we basically dubbed and did subtitles for, like, the larger studios like Netflix and Disney and whatnot, right? Paramount. So I got to watch pretty much everything before it came out, but it was not creative. Like, I was just, like, I was a coordinator, so I was just in charge of, like, staring at time codes all day, and it was not creative, not funny. I didn't have any, like I couldn't add anything creative to the process. And as a creative, like born and raised, I j- I j- I couldn't stay there for too long. So thank God I was able to go back to college to like get a larger, like a longer degree, because it was just so depriving. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like if you've been stuck in if you have this passion for art, right, and then you get stuck in this like 9 to 5 thing, it's like oh, you just feel trapped. It's like you're like a fish in a fishbowl.
Yeah, creative people shouldn't be technicians.
No,
Mm.
that's not what we are meant to do. We're it's a slow suicide. So it was not fun. But I'm grateful for it because I got to understand like how post production works, like how that workflow goes, and I got to meet people, and I got to again see movies before anyone else did. So that was fun, and I was able to survive financially during a pandemic. But no, I really did miss like I just wanted to write the whole time. I just wanted to like sit there and like type on the side. But yeah, I'm able to do that now, so I'm very grateful for that.
It's probably going to be a very useful experience for you, because one of the most important things in directing is
Mhm.
is understanding post, right? Because you actually
Yeah.
spend more time in post than you do actually filming,
Right.
and you can even spend more time in post than you spend in pre-production. So,
Yeah, I mean,
and
production itself is the smallest part.
you really, yeah, and the most expensive. Uh, but it's great. Like if you know how to work with editors and you know how to
Mhm.
talk to them, because they can be sensitive as well.
Right, yes. I think every artist is sensitive. We're all just broken people.
Broken people for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So you did these post-production jobs, you went back and you got a few more years for a degree. And then what happened between that second degree and then getting into AFI?
That was the fun part. That
Yeah.
was when things started to take off. I my writing partner Lila and I have a few writing partners off campus, and she and I wrote the script together about the family separations at the U.S. Mexico border during Trump, and we were able to get that into a lot of festivals, and then we optioned it last year, and now it's in development with a producer, and thanks to that journey that we went on together, we I was able to get the O1 and then, I got into AFI thanks to that, like, we just rode on that wave, and then, I worked in management too at the time, so I had, some more, I got to see that side of the industry as well. So that was the gap between my bachelor's and now was just fun and amazing and very adventurous.
So you and your writing partner wrote a script
Mm,
and got it into a festival
a
and
bunch of festivals,
yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
got some attention.
Yeah.
And then now it's being optioned by a producer.
It was options. So we got into it was a finalist at the Austin Film Festival last year, and one of the judges is this indie producer, and she optioned it after the festival. She was part of the committee that judged it. So
I've heard the Austin Writers Festival or Film Festival is like the best place for young writers to go and get their
it's
work.
so much fun, and they have great like speakers every year. The writer of Inside Out 1 and 2 was there, and Ryan Johnson, who did Knives Out, was one of the honorees too. It was a fun experience for sure. And it is one of the best places, I think, for young writers because we're not just young, but emerging writers because it's full of like seminars and great screenings and red carpets. And it was just a fun, like, party to go to. We didn't win, sadly, but there was an open bar, so I didn't complain. But we got an option and now it's in development, which is fun. So
So what does it mean to so just for, I know what you're talking about, but for
Mhm.
everyone else out there, what does it mean to have something that you've worked on as a writer, like a script optioned, and then what is like the option period and how long does that last? And there's all these
Sure.
things to it. It would be great to hear.
Yeah, sure. So it depends. Usually what it means is that you still own the rights to the script. It's still yours. It's still your baby. You have the copyright, but you're kind of renting out the rights to it, to put it that way. And so this producer now gets a chance to play with it, do revisions on it with you, and bring in like a director, bring in financiers, other producers, the whole crew, and etc. And then by the end of the option period, ideally, like you've gotten the script to a really polished draft, and then they'll have the budget, and you just greenlight it, and then they'll buy it from you, and then they'll shoot it, right? Um,
And how long does that whole option period last, or is it variable?
this one is 18 months, which is kind of standard. Some are, way shorter, some like just 12 months, some are longer. But and usually like you have to do more than one option period because sometimes they just need more time to get the budget together and whatnot, and that's just part of the process. Um,
And they still pay you for that option period?
yeah, they have
Yeah.
to pay to renew it for sure.
Yeah.
And so it's, options are very common and not everything gets made. And it's just like if you're lucky, like yes, it's gonna be actually shot and produced and released.
Mhm.
We don't know that. I think that as young writers, we tend to like kind of be a bit too idealistic about things. We tend to be a bit naive. I think it's important to learn to be grounded and like, okay, this is an option now. We're working on it. And hopefully we're gonna work for it to happen, but you just don't know. I mean, things can happen. There could be a second pandemic. We just also just don't know, right? But it's in development, so it's heading somewhere now, which is great. And then on the side of that, we're just working on other things while we're, you have to have, like, multiple projects at the same time, right, as a writer. But, yeah, so that happened, and, so an option is, like, the first step towards, like, actually getting it greenlit and getting it made. But you still own the rights to it. If it doesn't work out, you get to take your script back and say thank you and try it with the next producer.
Mhm.
And so you still have, like, final authority over the screenplay.
And are you a member of the Writers Guild? Like, how does that all work?
Not yet. Hopefully, through this project, we will both qualify to get in. 'Cause it's gonna be a union project, but yeah,
That'd be
it's
great.
yeah, be wonderful.
Yeah, because I mean, the guilds are really good at protecting their members. So if you do
Yeah.
have someone that jerks you around, or you do have someone that copyright something of yours, they have all the lawyers. It's pretty good system.
Yeah, that's what I can't wait to get to that point, but I mean, we love the producers that we work with. She's really sweet, so
That's good.
yeah.
I when I first came to LA, I became a member of the Producers Guild, and that's been really wonderful for like networking and meeting people and going to screenings and stuff like
Screenings,
that.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, a lot of screenings, I'm sure.
I don't go to the movie theater anymore. I just go to the screenings for the PGA, like for the Producers Guild, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
like my whole social life.
Same thing with AFI. They just bring in, like, all these, like, A-listers every week, and we're like, "Oh, well, I don't have to pay money to see them at AMC. I can just watch them here." That's pretty fun,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So because of the optioning of your script
Mm.
and because of your success at the Austin Film Festival or Austin Writers Festival, like you were able to get into AFI. So what was that whole like application process like?
It was long, it was, like, a year long. I never thought that I would get in. It's so competitive, and it was hard. I spent, I think, a year on, like, everything from, like, drafting the essay that I had to submit, and then I spent, I think, 3 or 4 months in my writer's lab, like, workshopping the samples I had to submit, and I submitted a sample that could have gone either way. It was pretty, like, pretty, it was very gay. Very, like, erotic, which could have, like, and it was very anti-Catholic at the same time, so it could have gone either way. I think I don't know, it's LA, people are ex-Catholic gays here, so I liked it for that reason, I guess, but I submitted that and then, again, spent months in my workshop lab, like, trying to get it up to a level that was, like, submittable,
Hmm.
and
How long did your writing submission have to be?
it could only be up to 20 pages for the sample, and then we had to write a scene based on their prompt, and, that could only be 5 pages. So, like, the essay and then the five-page scene, right? And then the prompt or the sample, which was just up to 20 pages. So, a lot of work, and then letters of recommendation for people in the industry and stuff. So, it's been, it took me a long time to get it done, and I'm like, "I'm just gonna submit it, pay for it, we'll see what happens." And then I was dreading April 15th for, like, 6 months because I knew
That was the date?
that was the day that they were gonna announce it. I'm like, "I'm never gonna get in." I'm like, "This is gonna be it." But I got the mail or the email, and it just said, "Congratulations," and I was like, "Shit," I got in. So that was a huge, like, I mean, turning point for me, and it was just I'm grateful for them. I'm really grateful.
But the AFI is a tough racket because you got to kind of go to school and it's
Yeah.
almost full time, and then you also
More than full time.
and then you also have to work because I mean it's expensive to go to that
Yeah,
school, and
yeah.
then they don't like there's no scholarships and stuff like that. So
I did actually get a scholarship.
oh,
Not
congratulations.
thank you, not from AFI, unfortunately. I mean, that would've been great. But, I got it from Sweden, so I was able to like, that's been, a huge it's helped me pay for it, so it's been very great. But yeah, no, it's hard, it's expensive, and the thing is, like, you can have a job on the side, but I mean, we have the job with a producer, but it's like, we barely have time to even sleep at AFI, so I respect anybody who does both AFI and, like, have a day job on the side, which is rare, but some people do because they have to, but it's exhausting because you're on campus from, like, sometimes it's 6 in the morning, or you're moving, equipment around, and then you get back at, like, midnight.
That's full on.
It's full on, it's
Yeah.
really and then, like, weekends too, like, it's very intense, but if you have a passion for it and if it is your life, like, I think it's worth it, but you don't have time to, like, date, you don't have time to, like, have a life outside of it, it's just non-existent, you know?
Mhm.
So it's a risk, and it is a sacrifice. I think people who are not artists, they don't really see the sacrifice that we put in. They don't really see the human cost of making movies or making art. We do. We have to see it all the time. But I think, it as challenging as it is, it's been the best experience of my life so far.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. Like it's funny. Like people outside the industry, they don't understand like being on a movie set for 18 hours is the best thing in the world, and it's not even 1 hour of actually working.
Right. No, it's true. It's just like lifting things around, moving things around, waiting for the setup to be ready. And
No,
it's a lot.
movie magic.
Yeah.
So as you're trying to like build a career as a writer here in Hollywood, like are
Mhm.
there certain themes or genres that you're quite interested in, or are you just trying to, spread around and try a few different things? Like, or is there something? Because I only asked this because literally yesterday I was interviewing a writer and he loves
Mm.
comedies
Mm.
and he just wants to write comedies, and he loves stand up comedy, he
Mhm.
loves Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, like all the old guys, doing their thing, and he just wants to like write a hit comedy. That's his like dream. So I'm just curious if there's a genre that you like.
A drama.
Yeah.
I love social issue dramas. I'm a very political person, and I really wanna uplift, especially women and queer people through my scripts, but also anybody. Like, I think every human being on this planet needs to be empowered somehow, right? So I wanna tell stories that are very personal and dramatic, usually through a political lens, and I tend to write mostly female-led stories about queer people because 'cause I'm gay, and it just really matters to me, so that's my passion, that's where my heart is, and eventually I wanna get, like, something like that made too. That's my version of that guy's dream.
Well, that's good. What is it like living in the United States and being political and having these deep things that you care about?
Honestly, in LA, everyone's, like, so on board with it.
Hmm.
Back in my small town where people were, like, very, very bigoted, no one cared, and they were very homophobic about it, but, like, here, everybody's, like, so open, and they just care, and I think that I've needed that my whole life. I'm like, "Yes, finally, I got it," and so it's been great, to be honest.
No,
Yeah.
it's funny. Like I actually I did an interview a while back with another
Mhm.
gay man, writer as well. And he like grew up in the Midwest in the United States in this super conservative
Well,
community.
yeah.
And he was just like losing his mind. And then he came out here, for a week just to like check it out. And he's like, I found my people. Like I'm never going back.
Here,
Yeah.
that was me when I first got I'm like, "Yes, I can see my gays. I can see them."
Yeah. It's a different part of the world for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, Sweden can be we have queer culture there too. It's just I lived in a small town that was, like, really, like because we have our own version of Trump, and a lot of people in my, um, small town vote for, that party, and you could just feel it. You could just feel like you're not welcome here, and then moving here was like, "Oh my god, everybody cares all of a sudden." No, I mean, I've met some homophobes here too, but it's rare because it's LA.
It's pretty free and open.
It's really liberating for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think most artists, you're gonna see your people, like, among artists all the time, which I love.
Mhm. That's
Mm.
amazing. So I
Mhm.
mean, like, do you miss Sweden at all?
I I appreciate the country for what it is. I'm never gonna give up my citizenship. Like, I love it for that reason, but I found my people here. I found my friends here. I found my gays here. It just I yeah, I'm torn between 2 countries, I guess. What about you? Do you ever miss Canada?
No. So I passed a major threshold in my life just a few years ago where I have now lived outside of Canada longer than I lived in Canada.
Wow, what was that like?
It was interesting. Like I left Canada when I was 22 and
Oh.
now I'm in my mid 40s. So
Mhm.
it was exciting to kind of like pass that threshold a few years ago and I don't miss it at all. Like Canada's it's kind of like a wonderful place to like grow up, but
Mhm.
if you really want to do something in the creative space, especially in film or television, I do think you have to leave.
Yeah, this is the place to be.
Yeah.
It would be great to move Hollywood to Canada, but,
But I had a major step up because I started my career outside of the North America, and I was able to raise money for my projects in a different way and get a lot of stuff done, before I came here. So I feel like I missed out on all the interning and all the endless jobs and all that stuff. Like I was able
Mm,
to actually just start making stuff right away, which
that's better. Interning can be exhausting. I did it for free, and it was just heartbreaking.
yeah.
Keep you up all night for no money. It's a lot, So that was a smart plan.
Well, it kinda just worked out backwards, so it was really much easier to, like, because I like, my first so, for example, like, my first television shows that I made were all about China, and I
Mhm.
lived in China. So, travel costs were much cheaper, I
Mhm.
spoke the language, I'd worked for the New York Times covering China, so I knew how to get around. I knew lots of people who could help facilitate certain experiences and adventures
Mhm.
around the country. So, I used a lot of that local knowledge to kind of get off, to a flying start, I suppose.
Yeah, it sounds way healthier than working your butt off for no money 24/7.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, people don't understand how much of a grind it is here for young people trying to make it.
Yeah, yeah, and they just love to take advantage too of, like, people with big dreams. Like, if you just put in all of this work for free, then maybe we'll hire you.
Mm.
And then you just find yourself reading like 5 screenplays a day, and then writing like 1 page long synopsis per project, and you're just on the brink of throwing up because it's exhausting to read like hundreds of pages a day, right? And then you just get no money for it, and then they don't hire you because they don't take you seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that cutthroat.
It's been really cutthroat, and then people a lot of the people who, like, run the internship programs can be, like, really, they lack empathy and humanity.
That's a good way to describe it. Ah, yeah, lacking empathy.
Yeah, yeah, trademark. So yeah, that was the healthiest thing for you for sure.
Yeah. So as you kind of pursue your career now through the AFI, I mean the networking must be incredible.
Yes, yeah. Again, every week they bring in a director usually of a brand new movie. Like they had the director come in from The Substance
Mhm.
a while back. They had Jason Reitman come in for Saturday Night Live or whatever the movie was called.
Yep.
And every week they just bring in like a brand new person who's like now an Oscar nominated person, and you just get to meet them in person and see them like right in front of you, which is really cool.
Did you ever see Juno?
I did. I love Juno. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he was so grounded too. Like, I mean, a lot of people who come in have been very like kind of arrogant about their work. Jason Reitman was the opposite. He was just like super cool and grounded and talked about therapy and like, was very sweet about it. So I'm a big fan.
That's good. That's good. So now that you've got your one screenplay that's been optioned,
Mhm.
are you keen to like start writing and on like obviously you're working on a few different projects at the same time? Like, I mean, how do you now see yourself getting your new writing projects kind of out into the world or off the ground? Like, are you gonna still go for some writing festivals and film festivals, or are you gonna try to like be a little bit more direct and specific and target maybe a few producers or directors that you might really want to work with or might have a similar vision to you?
I'm gonna do both for sure. I got one pilot that's like almost ready, and then I have a second writing partner also off campus, and we're planning to do a proof of concept for that feature once we're done and out of AFI, and then hopefully get that into hopefully Sundance, and then go through the Sundance lab and develop it.
Sundance is on right now.
I know. I'm missing it. I'm missing it. I want to go there so badly. It looks
Actually, I saw a photo of Benedict Cumberbatch. He's there and he's all cold in Park City,
yeah,
Utah.
no. So my friends and my professors just came back, and I'm like, "Oh, I missed it again." And this I think this is the last year it's gonna be in Utah, right? They're moving it to Cincinnati, I heard?
Really?
Yeah, I forgot why, but, this I missed the Park City vibe, and that's sad.
I heard, you want to hear a rumor
Yes.
or a conspiracy theory, perhaps? I heard that in January 2020, people from all over the world went to Utah for Sundance.
Sundance.
And that was like one of the first few super spreader events for COVID,
You know what?
which,
That tracks. That tracks. Yep.
yeah.
The wild parties that I've heard of.
Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of considered maybe one of the super spreader events.
Wow. I
Mm.
mean, yeah, it tracks. It sounds like it could possibly have happened.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
So are you, I mean, where, like, you're young, you're kind of pursuing this career in this super competitive, incredibly difficult field that we've all chosen to kind of operate in. Like, like how do you feel on a daily basis just kind of waking up and doing your work and trying to get it out into the world? Like, are you confident? Are you struggling with it? Like, I guess it depends on the day.
I have an imposter syndrome for sure, and I think it just comes with like being a woman. But yeah, I wake up at like 5 and I just get some pages done before class, and then I spend like 3 classes back to back, and they're like 3 hours each. So
3 hours classes, 3 classes, 3 hours each back
yeah,
to back.
on Thursdays I'm there for like 12 hours in a row, and it's fun. Like I'm alive, I'm enjoying it, but it's like there is a human cost to it because I just don't have time to like even text like friends between classes because you just have too much workload. But I wake up and I'm like, this was the right choice for me. I never would have I don't think I would still be here had it not been for like film or for art, right? So, um, I wake up feeling like I've made the right choice.
Hmm.
And I think that is such a privilege. And I think it just keeps me going. But like, yeah, there is a human cost to making art. And sleep is one of those things you have to sacrifice sometimes.
Friendships, family.
Dating, yep.
Yeah.
Tinder, like like goodbye dating. But it is if you love it, it's worth it. And so yeah, on a daily basis, I'm just like hustling, and writing and trying to like be creative, and I'm rewriting pages constantly like in between my classes. I'm just trying to like get, some outlines done. And I also have 3 wedding portraits off campus, so that's, like, that's my weekends, right? That's where I spend my time, where I'm supposed to be resting, and, yeah, it's just nonstop work, but I'm down for it. I'm so down for it.
Do you ever think of what your life might have been like if you ended up in London?
Um, Sometimes I do. I don't think it would've been this fun,
No.
if I'm being honest. I don't think I would've been able to navigate that industry without education. I mean, I
Less sunshine.
yeah, oh yeah, this true. I love the London vibes. I love the climate. I love rain. But I don't think it would have been a great choice because I did plan eventually to apply to film schools, but I think like I I mean, AFI is AFI for a reason, and I don't think I would have been able to get in had it not been for like me grinding here for like 3, 4, 5 years before even applying. So I think it was the right choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, no, I think the London film industry is pretty interesting,
Mhm.
but the volume of what gets made is nothing compared to what happens here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you regret leaving, your world behind for this?
No, I've had a strange one. So
Mm,
so I did 18 years in China,
mm,
and then I was in China traveling like 300 days a year, and it just became too difficult. So I
mm,
moved to Dubai because ease of transport in and out of Dubai is effortless, and
mhm.
they've got a better airline and stuff like that. So Emirates is not a sponsor, but Emirates airline is amazing because they have like the most direct flights to the most destinations anywhere in the world. And I calculated like between when I was living in China to when I moved to Dubai, I saved like 12 and a half days
Wow.
of my life that I was like transiting through other airports just by living in Dubai. So I got like 2 weeks of my life back.
Wow.
So I mean, I'm not a big fan of Dubai, but for ease of travel and ease of like, because you could go down and film in Kenya, fly back, go out to Taipei, fly back, go to New York, do an event, come back, and you're on direct flights everywhere, and that makes such a big difference when you're traveling that
Yeah,
much.
I can only imagine. I mean,
Mm.
do you think that if you'd stayed in your small town, would you be the same person?
Well,
Well,
Toronto is a good town, but
mm,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I really think you have to get out of your
yeah.
comfort zone, and obviously you did, and that's really empowering for anyone listening to this,
Yeah.
especially if you're a young person who's like trying to find a new path or a different
Get
path.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
See the world.
I mean, if I stayed in Canada, I would have been a banker or a lawyer or something like
Yeah.
that, and I would have done that. But then I went to China,
Yeah.
and then eye-opening, right?
No, really. I mean, if I'd stayed, I never would have been the same person. I think I've grown so much, as cliche as that sounds, just by meeting people and like, you know, trying to make it and always like being out of your comfort zone. And I tried not to stay in my comfort zone for more than like a day. Because you're gonna be stagnant. You're never gonna grow as an artist, if you keep playing it safe, right? So I think that it is huge to just learn to let go of what was and embrace what might come. And yeah. So if you're young and listening, do it.
Embrace the risk.
Embrace the risk. It
Yeah.
can it can it can backfire. It has for me, but I'm still here and I'm still doing it. So
I think the 20s, you're like, if you're in your 20s,
mm,
it's like the best time to just make mistakes.
yeah.
And I think too many people worry in their 20s that if they make mistakes in their 20s, they're going to get hurt for it in their 30s. But I actually think it's the other way around. Like, the more mistakes you make in your 20s, the more you're going to enjoy probably more like creative professional success in your 30s.
Yeah, I think that your 20s is like your chance to do you know Taylor Tomlinson is?
Yes, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she's this amazing comedian, and she joked about, like, how your 20s is, like, your chance to fish shit out of the water before, like, winter comes and freezes. So, because like, this is your chance to, like, work on your shitty personality before it solidifies, right? So, I think, yeah, get out and get yourself free.
Yeah. And try things.
Try things, try new things, and just I mean, learn to fail. I think it's important. It's healthy to fail, and I think that's what I love so much about AFI. Like, they let us fail, but they never let us stay on the ground.
Hmm.
They will comment if you fuck up, if you don't get a scene right, they will let you know right away what you did wrong, and they will make sure that everybody on campus knows too. But they will never let you stay down. They will always lift you up, and it's just a very safe space to fail and get experimental and like learning how to not repeat that same mistake. So it's healthy to learn to just squash your ego like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just try things.
just try things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
It's wild. That's amazing. And like, so what do your parents think of this whole like transition that you've made to being a LA native?
Oh, they've been scared, I think. My dad's an artist too, so he gets it. He was a musician for many years in his orchestra. He played the clarinet. So he dropped out of high school to do that, and then he was able to get into this orchestra. Like he gets the risk. Like, he lived that whole life too. Like he was a broke artist and then he got a job and then he worked for many years as a musician. Then he switched over to nature photography too, not for Nat Geo, but freelance. And so he's lived this life too. Like he travels, he lives for art. That's his whole thing. So we get it. My mom, I think, was more scared. She was like, "Shit, this is like a huge leap for you. You're paying for it. Like it's your loss if you fail." But I think my dad really gets it because he's had to go through it. What about your parents?
My parents were confused when I left, yeah. So you can imagine, like no one in my family had ever left. So when I wanted to like move to China, it was a lot of skepticism. I think my parents like secretly thought I probably wouldn't last 6 months. Um,
Same. I'm
yeah.
gonna be back. I'm like, no, it's been no.
But I went to China not knowing what I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed to get out of Canada, and then I tell this story a lot on the podcast. But what happened to me was like because I was playing basketball at such a high level from like age 8 to 22,
Mhm.
I didn't have any time for any other hobbies, and I didn't have any time to do anything other than train. So it was a very like singular focused life. And then once that was over, I had a huge void in my soul. And I filled it with storytelling and I didn't know that was going to happen until I went to China and I was just mesmerized. And then all of a sudden I realized like I have all these other skills or all these other things I wanted to do. And it was only once basketball was out of my life that I was able to open that next door. And without that, I wouldn't have really been able to do anything.
You think your parents get it now? Like, do you think they look back and think like, "Oh yeah, he did make the right decision for himself," or do you think they're still like confused?
I think they think I'm okay because I haven't had to ask them for money. So I think that's the big one. Like,
You're like, "I'm beyond that now."
yeah, because I think, like, when you're 22 or whatever, your parents are like, "Oh my god, he's gonna try something," and then it's like, "It's gonna cost me a fucking shit ton of money
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
fucks up or whatever." But the fact that I was able to kind of land on my feet, yeah,
That's, just a testament to your skill.
yeah. But it was a wild ride. Yeah, China, I was in China at the right time. I think that was
Mhm,
the key.
mhm.
I left at the right time, and I think I was there for a really exciting period. So that part of my life is kind of over now. And then now I've been in LA for about 14 months. So I just came,
How do you like it so far?
it's interesting.
It's a nice.
I mean, again, like before I came here, I was in Dubai, and I never wanted to like live in Dubai. I was always just a resident there, and I was always traveling. So my my happiest was when I was in Dubai for like 5 or 7 days a month, and then the rest
Mhm.
of the time I was doing speaking events or I was filming. Right, so I was always in and out, and it worked out perfectly. I never even had an apartment there. I lived in a hotel, and it was great. The people there
Mhm.
were amazing. But then when COVID hit, I got stuck. And then I ended up having to just stay there for months and months and months, not working because I only had two jobs. You either make television, which you had to
Mhm.
get on an airplane to do,
Right.
or you do a speaking event, which you also had to get on an airplane to do. So, like in 2019, I made 10, I did 10 expeditions in 10 countries in 10 months, which was 10 episodes of TV for
Mhm.
Discovery. And then I also did like 42 speaking events.
Wow.
S
Wow.
And I've never been happier.
It sounds like you're just living your dream,
And
embracing it.
and then it all stopped.
Until then, it was fun.
Yeah. So then but then I just because international travel was so difficult, like, it was really hard to kind of get back going. So then, once the writer's strike and the actor strike was over in November 2023,
Mhm.
then I came here, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna build this kind of from the ground up again and make sure I can raise enough money and find the channels to bring the whole team back and really do something again." And then also try to make sure that whatever I build next doesn't get torn down as easily. Like, I know COVID tore down a lot of people's businesses,
Yeah.
but there's ways I can try to insulate myself better.
And I think we're learning too, like as artists, like after the pandemic, after the strikes, after the wildfires, like we just like learn to cope with disasters and we get better at I mean, creating a plan for what could happen or
Mhm.
how we could go about it if it were to happen again.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. We'll see.
So do you get back to Sweden at all?
I don't really know. My dad lives down in Spain, so I usually go there and visit my stepfamily. But it's been a while since I last time I was in Sweden was like back in 2023, I think, just to pick up my old visa or my new visa. And no, since then I kind of just stay here because I'm always working anyways. I just don't really have the time to travel, but I do miss some parts of it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think of the girl with the dragon tattoo? Did you ever see that movie about Sweden?
I did. You mean the Fincher version?
Yeah, yeah, the Finnish
I
version.
actually rewatched it recently. I'm laughing at it.
Yeah.
It's a good movie, don't get me wrong. It's beautifully written.
Daniel Craig, Rooney Mara.
Yeah, I mean, the acting was great, but the accents were just so off. And it's funny when you're watching like Americans trying to like, you know, make a different culture seem like authentic when it's just clearly like they just mess it up. Because not that I'm offended by it, I just think it's funny because the production design is great, but the fact that they all speak English is just, like, not authentic. We don't speak English there, we speak Swedish, and, no, it was just funny to watch because it just felt like they were just so off.
I love asking people who live in other countries what they think of American movies who do that, right? Who kind of like American
Yeah.
wash the
Yeah.
actors.
No, for sure. I mean, Chernobyl is a great example. Not that it's Sweden, but it's close to Sweden, and every actor speaks English, but it's like they speak Ukrainian and Russian in that way in that region, like, come on.
But you're not gonna get the ratings if you make a bunch of Americans read subtitles.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we had a big conversation about that actually at AFI last week. Somebody was like, "We shouldn't have subtitles. It's just distracting." We're like, "We learned English by reading subtitles, so like, if we can do it, so can you." You know, it's funny.
It's strange, like, it's such a privilege actually, and I only realized this when I came back to
Mm.
LA recently, like, it's such a privilege to grow up in the culture with the language that the majority of the entertainment in the world
Yeah.
is pumped out into the
Mm.
world through, because you never have to learn how to read subtitles or deal with, like, the terrible dubbing.
Yes, dubbing can be terrible. I used to work in dubbing, I know. It can be really bad.
That's amazing. Would you ever, like, do you ever think you wanna write a story about, like, growing up in Sweden or living in Sweden? Like, do you think that could ever be a backdrop for one of your scripts?
Actually, it is right now. I'm adapting my own coming out story,
Mhm.
but it's like a semi-autobiographical story. It's not based on me, it's more like inspired by it. So it's partially set in Sweden, and that was the first time that I've ever like tried to even go back in time like that. And it's been very healthy, I think, to kind of like just get that out on the page.
Mhm.
Do you ever like do anything semi-autobiographical or like do you ever like weave in your own story into your projects?
Everything I do is kinda nonfiction and
Mm.
real. So I just do my thing and I be myself, and hopefully people like it. So that's kind of where I am. But it's interesting that you're doing this kind of like
Mm.
semi-autobiographical, because I always make jokes, like, I love Ernest Hemingway, he's my favorite writer, and he was the one who kind of, like, inspired me to travel and get out and see the world. And, see, the camera's on me right now, so now you can have your
Oh
ma
shit.
massive drink. But, but he was great because he always, went out on these adventures and did these amazing things, and then he would write fiction, but it was actually just kind of autobiographical because he
Mhm.
actually went and did all those things and lived all those lives. So I always laugh when people talk about, like, trying to hide their own voice in a fictional
Yeah.
story because it's very Hemingway.
And I think most writing has to be at least semi-autobiographical because we have to for it to resonate, we have to really sit in something really real and grounded, and that, I mean, means you have to sit in your trauma sometimes, and I think if you can't do that as a writer, you're not digging deep enough, and even for especially for comedies, like, you have to, like, really find the heart of the story, and then also on top of that, make it funny. So comedy is even harder than, drama for that reason, but either way, you have to find a way to bring yourself to it and bring your voice to it. Otherwise, what are you doing? What's the point of art, right? So, I think like, yeah, you have to everything is to an extent at least semi-autobiographical, I think.
Mhm. And what's it been like revisiting that experience that you had in your early life before you came to LA? Like, has it been, you mentioned kind of it's been healthy or therapeutic,
Mhm.
but can you dig a little deeper into that?
How dark do you want this to get?
Well, I mean, as dark as as honest as you want to be. I'm just curious
Sure, yeah.
'cause I mean, like, there's people who go through, like, real
Mhm.
trauma,
Yeah.
and writing about it's super helpful, and
Yeah.
like, so I had one podcast guest, his name is Harker Jones, he was the gay man that I told you came to LA and came out and lived and is still living a magical life here, but he had a lot of trauma from his
Mhm.
father, who didn't really approve of his lifestyle, but and then he started writing it down and eventually wrote a book about it, and by writing it on the page, it helped him kind of work through the whole thing and get
Yeah.
get over that trauma, and then once he was able to get over that trauma, then, like, It was like a whole new life for him of writing and being free. And, I'm not suggesting that your story is anything like his, but
It-
these things do kind of have some similarities.
yeah, and it lead to like a lot of depressions and lots of like self-harm, and now I think I'm way past that. I would never go back and do the same thing to myself, but writing about it, to your point, has been very healing because I found this like you know um empathy for my past self who had to go through that and deal with that bullshit. And I feel like when you put it on the page, you get some distance from it, and you just get to be free from it. You just like kind of vomit it out, right? And it's been very healthy. So it to your point, like yes, writing about trauma can be very re-traumatizing. Do it at your own pace. Don't like try to rush it. Don't try to force it too much. Take breaks, work on other projects in between. That's what I've had to do. But once you get it out of your system, um, you feel elevated, I'd say. And it's like you come back home to yourself. I know that sounds cliche, but it's like once you've just kind of worked through it and you've processed it, the story's gonna be so much more relevant and it's gonna feel more authentic, right? And it's gonna feel real because it is, but you're not carrying it inside anymore. It's out of your body, it's out of your system. And it's been a very healthy thing for me to do. And I'm doing it with a co-writer who we've kind of combined our stories into one project. And it's been very healthy for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, it can go south as well.
It
If you
can go wrong, yeah.
if you try to do it too fast and, you haven't healed from it yet, it can be very hard to dramatize it,
Mhm.
but healthy for sure.
Who would you want to have play you if you can get this screenplay off?
There's only one Swedish actress who's, like, big enough to play her, and that would be Alicia Vikander. She won the Oscar for The Danish Girl. She played Lara Croft a few years back.
Yeah, Tomb Raider. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's the only, I think, Swedish actress who's, like, big enough to be pitched. So we'll see. I mean, we're still doing the outline right now, so we'll see where it goes, but eventually she would be the one to pitch.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Do you think your story of how you kind of grew up and came out, do you think that would be any different if you were in like Stockholm versus your small town an hour north of Gothenburg? Like, do you think growing up in a big metropolitan city like Stockholm, or do you think that would Stockholm's the capital of
Stockholm's the
Sweden?
capital, yeah.
Oslo's Norway. Sorry, I'm getting my direct.
That's true. I think so. I mean, Gothenburg too is like that was an hour away. Gothenburg's really laid back. I that was my escape growing up. There was a support group for queer people in the city that I would go to when I was closeted every week. So that was my escape. I love Gothenburg. There's I mean, not a huge queer scene, but we have like one or two gay clubs there. I think that would have made a huge difference. But growing up like in a small town, it's a fish tank. When people, if people just don't really get to see a large representation of queer people.
Hmm.
And when we don't see it, it becomes like this like other thing. It becomes this it's not normalized, right? So I think yes, to your point, living in a city would have really made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. I think finding a community that you identify yourself with, no
Mm,
matter what you do in life or who you are or what orientation you are or what sports you play
mm,
or what you care about or don't care about, like finding that like your people
yeah.
when you're 14, 15, 16 or whatever, 17 is so important. And if
Yes.
you can't find them, I can't imagine like how lonely that must be. And for everyone out there who might have a similar story or, struggled growing up in a small place where, they couldn't find their people, it must have just been devastating.
Yeah, but I think I think it's important to learn to be lonely. And once you've learned how to like be on your own and have your own back no matter what.
Spoken like a true writer.
I know, but it's important. I mean, I'm sure for you too as an adventurer, like if you learn how to be on your own, anybody else who comes in is just a bonus, and that can be a blessing. But if you can't be on your own, you'll never know the difference between a blessing and somebody that you just like over rely on, right? So yes, it can be traumatic to be closeted. It can be traumatic to come out and like lose all your friends, but
Mm.
you do learn so much when you put yourself back together again, and you'll have a different perspective on what it means to be lonely and what it means to be isolated because you've gone through it but healed from it. And I think for anybody who is in that situation, like just go right through it,
Mhm.
and then once you're on the other end, you'll be like a million times stronger, and it's gonna be worth it.
That's amazing. Oh, that's very empowering.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you feel the same way as a fellow artist. It's traveled a lot.
I think the more crazy shit that goes on in your life and the more
Mhm.
challenges you have, the more creative you become, and I think the richness of your storytelling increases.
I think so too.
Because I think you learn, I think, everyone says it, right? You don't learn from your wins, you learn from your failures, but you don't also learn from your failures. You learn from trauma, you learn from
Yeah.
hardship,
Yeah.
you learn from difficulties, and it just makes you kind of more complex as a human being. And I think the more complex you are, I think the more depth you have in telling stories and kind of identifying um what happened, and the
Yeah.
characteristics of, who you were at that time. And then you're able to kind of explain that yourself or those stories to the audience, right? And I think that helps. Like if you have a if you're a trust fund kid and you've never had any adversity in your life and you're 30 and you've never had a normal job or had someone break up with you or had to come out of the closet or,
Okay.
you know, you know, what are you going to write about?
Yeah, what is the point?
Being rich about how easy, and write about how easy life is. Like that's nowhere to start.
Yeah, but I think when you've had to survive something, and I'm still very blessed and privileged. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've been blessed enough to be Swedish. But I think when you do come from a real place of like, I had to physically survive something at some point, or like I had to go to court, or like whatever, like, you have a different perspective on life. I mean, it sounds cliche, but like on living, and you can bring that to your stories in ways that you would never be able to if you didn't have to go through whatever you are now recovering from, right? So I think it can be challenging, but I think it's a good, you have to learn to weave your shit into your stories. You have to like get real about what you went through, and how that impacted you, because it's going to enforce, or it's going to make you see how human beings work, and like how a traumatic event might like have ripple effects across your life, and how that's going to impact your behaviors and your dialogue as a writer, right? And so it gives you an insight for sure.
Yeah. No, that's the truth. It just, yeah, the more shit you go through, the more you understand the human dynamic.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
human condition,
Yeah.
and dialogue.
That's the truth. As a Canadian talking to a Swede in LA. No, it's great. So, I mean, do you see yourself like living in LA forever? Like, is this your real home? Like let's say you write 5 scripts in the next 5 years and you make 5 movies and the whole world is bowing down at your feet for your words. Will you still stay in LA?
I think so, at least for like another decade or two.
Decade or two.
Yes. Well, I love LA. I love my friends here, I love artists here. I'm in no rush to go back, but I mean, we'll see how things turn out with this president, but but eventually I do want to like work in the, London industry too, but for now I just love LA.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I feel I feel like coming here, I didn't know anyone really. So podcasting has been amazing. And I have to thank all my guests, including yourself, like for coming in and chatting because I was like, okay, what am I gonna do when I get to LA? Like, am I just gonna start calling people out for coffees? And I was like, no, I should have a podcast and then have people come on and then I can learn all about all these amazing people and then maybe even find ways of collaborating with them and
Yeah.
things like that. And I thought that'd be a lot more fun than me just kind of like cold calling a bunch of people. And it's great because everyone in LA wants to talk about themselves. So why not give them the platform?
It's true. But also it's like it's a fun way to like, actually get to know someone, not just like meet them on LinkedIn and like have, like each other's posts, like actually getting to know a human being, right?
Yeah.
And
Which is why this is face to face. I wouldn't
yeah,
do this by Zoom.
and I think that's the right call for sure.
Yeah. But then it's like, well, if I get back to doing 10 episodes a year and 45 speaking events, like, am I going to base myself in LA for that? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm bouncing all around the world again, circa 19 or 2019, whether this will still be the place for me, but yeah, I'm working towards it. Like, it's very comfortable here. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. Like, if you live in Southern California, it's hard to leave. Everything's kind of nice here.
Yeah.
But I'm open to anything. Like I still think at some stage in my life I'll probably live in London for a few years, like
Mhm.
maybe Paris as well. Like I feel quite comfortable bouncing around. Like I've moved
Mhm.
like I lived in Switzerland for kind of 2 years as well during COVID as well because they were pretty rational and I could still
Mhm.
climb and trek and do all the things I needed to do. So that was quite nice. I could see myself going back there as well.
What I mean, do you miss the feel of like being out in the wild and the mountains and the
Oh my God, so much.
oh, I can only imagine.
So you have to think like, so first of all, being out in nature is my happy place.
Mhm.
That's a given. And So sleeping in a tent, hiking 8-10 hours a day, climbing 8-10 hours a day. That's like my happy place. So in 2019, we did 10 episodes in 10 months. So we did 10 expeditions in 10 months. Each expedition was about 2 weeks long. So we spent 2 weeks out in the field to do one episode. And it's funny, like when you talk to people in LA, you tell them how long it takes you to do one like 60-minute episode. They laugh at you right away. They're like, we need that done in like 3 days. I'm like, you can't do a 200-kilometer trek in 3 days and make it
It's
authentic.
just
Like,
not possible.
so you kind of have to go out for more than 10 days if you want to
Mhm.
get something that's really usable and really gritty and really honest. So that was good. But in 2019, I think I spent like 150 nights that year sleeping in a tent
Wow.
in the middle of nowhere.
You're like, this is it. This is my life.
That was it. Like it was amazing. I slept like a baby. I was
Mhm.
never healthier. Like, getting out of the city, sleeping outside, like operating. So again, like you're filming 10 episodes each one, so it's about 150 days you're on the road in remote places, and you're waking up at 5 a.m. with the sunrise, you're going to bed at 6 p.m. with the sunset. Like your entire body and all your actions and your whole rhythm are completely in tune with the earth.
Wow. You must have felt so like at peace,
Very.
just rested.
No
Wow.
traffic.
No traffic, just sound of birds and winds and yeah.
The most epic trip I think we had was we did about 140 kilometers for Americans. That's about 100 miles, maybe 90 miles. But we did about 140 kilometers through this desert in northern China along the border with Mongolia called the Badain Desert. And it's super famous for having the highest sand dunes in the world. And we actually had to go up and down these sand dunes for it was spectacular.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a life-changing experience.
Yeah, I actually went to Mongolia too. I went to the Gobi Desert, which was beautiful. I mean, just lots of sand and camels, and it's really pretty.
Mongolia is spectacular.
It is. I want
Yeah.
to go back so badly.
We filmed an episode in Mongolia. We hiked like 150 kilometers through this national park in western Mongolia on the border with Russia, Kazakhstan, and China. And we climbed Kuten Peak, which is the highest peak in Mongolia. But that peak is amazing because it literally sits on the apex of borders with 4 countries. So you're in Mongolia, but you're right next to Russia, Kazakhstan, and China. So you can actually look out and see all of them.
All of the wow, that must have been quite the view.
It was pretty cool.
What's it like being like stuck here in LA now? Like I mean, do you feel like is it claustrophobic here compared to what it was like to be up there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little much, but like I honestly think like while I'm like rebuilding my channels of financing and stuff like
Mhm.
that, doing these podcasts has been completely life-saving, like and incredibly therapeutic because like while I'm still getting ready to go back out into the wild and do things like I've been hiking and climbing and stuff like that, but getting to meet amazing people, learn about their hopes and dreams and trauma and difficulty and
Yeah.
successes is just been amazing. So it's wonderful to like have a new person come into the studio every day or every other day and just chat and really kind of get to the heart of what makes them tick. So I've really found a lot of like happiness and
Mhm.
joy through meeting new people as well. Because that's the one thing you don't get when you're out in a tent for
Right.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Meeting people.
It's like me and my 2 camera guys that I worked with for a decade or more,
Mhm.
and then a local producer who's helping us, and then, maybe a camel driver or a donkey guy or
Mhm.
whatever, and
Mhm.
then his wife who does the cooking.
Right, and you don't really meet human beings like that often. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting, and I think it's inspiring. Like you got here and you're like, I'm not gonna just be static and do nothing, or just stay stagnant. So like you created this whole thing, which is it's I think a beautiful way to like stay active as an artist, right, and still get things done, but also like put yourself out there and meet people and learn about different parts of the world, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's still some version of storytelling somehow.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think podcasting is a beautiful art form that you should credit more.
Well, I think the best thing about it is that, we live in an age of, like, sound bites, and we live in an age of misinformation,
Yeah,
and for anyone who listens to this conversation, like, between us today, everyone is gonna know you and me completely. Like,
yeah,
there's no hiding who I am or who you are. Like,
yeah.
there's no way that you can hide in a 2-hour or 3-hour conversation,
No.
and pretend you're someone you're not. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So, for me, I think it's just such a nice, authentic way to get to the heart of, like, who a person really is.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I think that's what this art form is for, and it's just, again, overlooked, but it's empowering and it's beautiful,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
And we're getting up there now, so we're starting to get, a few more interesting guests and a few more so I'm starting to now mix in, like, with my friends and people I wanted to meet. And I think I reached out to you on like LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But now we're starting to get some PR firms involved, and they're starting to send people through because they like the style, and
It's beautiful.
got a nice little studio here. And
Oh yeah, you really do. Congratulations. That's like what, 10 months of hard work, or you said 14 months?
yeah, since what? Yeah, almost 14 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so, I mean, a lot of work, but it's paying off.
Yeah, we publish twice a week, so every Tuesday, Thursday, so we would put out new people, and so last year we did 100 and what is that, 52, 104 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever like always wanted to be a podcast host, or like did you get into that, you said during the pandemic?
Yeah, so during the pandemic, obviously I was stuck. So when it was funny, like I was in Ethiopia, happy filming, and then the world closed, and I managed to get into Turkey. And at the same day I landed in Istanbul, they closed the international borders for Turkey. So then I was stuck. And then I was sitting in a hotel for a while, and not knowing what to do. And then so I started doing these like COVID calls with my friends who were stuck in other parts of the world, and we started doing these Instagram live chats, and that's what really got me into this idea of like podcasting. But we were doing it
Do
through,
this, yeah. Like,
yeah,
I'm good at this, you know?
a little bit of gift of the gab, but you try. But that was kind of what it got started, and then it just kind of steamrolled from there. And then now we're kind of doing it more professionally here in LA, and of course LA is like the same reason you're
Mhm.
here, right? It's full of amazing creative people, so you get the chance to.
All over the world who've got all these crazy stories, and that's what I love about this place so much. Like, it's so diverse. People coming from all over the world. Like, when you live in a small town in Sweden, you don't see people from the world. So it's been a beautiful journey.
Yeah. It's amazing that it's amazing to me that you didn't have a stopover somewhere in Europe before you came to LA. Cause like normally people are like, okay, I'm going to try like to go somewhere else, but I'm going to stay close to home, an hour or two flight,
Yeah. No, after coming out, I'm like, I'm out of here. Like, I need to find my gays in LA. So
Yeah. So it was a bit of an escape.
kinda, if I'm being honest, yeah, it was a bit of an escape. I at the time I'm like, this is not an escape. Now I'm like, oh no, it was. Cut up to me.
Yeah.
You said.
So how much longer do you have at AFI?
I have 2 more years, and
How long is the program?
it's about 3 years.
Holy shit,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
It's a lot of work,
Yeah.
but it's full-time, nonstop, but, I love it. I love it. So after that, I plan to, because I found my, like, core collaborators at AFI already
Mhm.
that I wanna work with for, like, the rest of my life. So
That's amazing.
I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, they're really beautiful, like, artists, and they're so talented, and they've worked, in different parts of the industry before this, and, we just wanna tell the same types of stories. Like, we just both wanna tell, like, stories about, like, coming out, and stories about women, and social issues. I feel like I've found my core group. So we plan to, like, get some projects together after AFI, and then hopefully, get enough funding for, like, a feature together, and, yeah, we'll see. But I got the next, like, 10 years of my life planned already.
Well, let's hope it goes as planned.
I hope so.
Oh yeah.
We'll see.
That's tough though. It's like 2 more years. That's a lot of
It's a
like
lot.
training.
A lot of training, but it's, like, it's so hardcore, and it's overwhelming, but again, like, it just makes you just it sharpens you
Hmm.
as an artist.
Can you imagine how free you're gonna be in 2 years' time to write? Like how much energy and time like you're
Oh
gonna.
my god, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I will actually get to sleep.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's gonna be fun for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're looking forward to like being a life as a enjoying life as a writer.
I think so, yeah. I mean, most writers, like, always working on multiple projects, and I think what is beautiful about that art form is that you're always, like, you get to see all these different worlds in your head, and you just never get bored. Like, if you're at the same office for, like, 30 years of your life, that's the same story world over and over and over again. But if you're a writer, you get to, like, experiment, like, I don't know, like, any fantasy world in your head, a sci-fi world, or, like, maybe a courtroom drama. Like, you get to be all these different people in each project, and it's liberating, right? And so, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it for sure.
You really, I mean, like people always talk about actors being able to step into other people's
Yeah.
shoes and like live other people's lives and
Mhm,
how liberating that is and how fun. But I
mhm.
think like the writers, before the actors even get to look at a script, the
Yes.
writers have to do that
We have
times a
to.
thousand.
Yeah, and, like, I usually travel to the places too where the stories are set if I can afford to. Like, I have this one script set in San Francisco, and I've been there, like, 4 times, and I've just gone back and forth to do research, and it's, like, it's true, like, you get to just see a whole new world, and, like, if it's based on a true story, you have to, like, actually really do the research and, like, get to know the location itself to be able to, I mean, portray it authentically, right? And so it's been yeah, like, yeah, to your point, you have to really put yourself in a new world as a writer all the damn time. And if you don't do it well enough, you're not putting in the work enough. Because research is such a huge part of writing, and world building is a huge part of it too.
Yeah.
And so you just live all these like lives vicariously as a writer, and I think that's my favorite part about it.
I love, obviously you're probably familiar with Taylor Sheridan, who's been
Mm,
doing all the Paramount stuff, the last couple of
yeah.
years. And I love his story because he was an actor who was trying to act and, he was getting bit parts here and there, but nothing really. And then he just started writing about what he knew. So he like grew up on a ranch, like he's a rancher, like he's a cowboy basically in
Mm,
Texas, right? And then he just started writing about that life. And then, now he's done
Yellowstone.
Yellowstone, 1863, 1923. Landman recently with Billy Bob Thornton was amazing. And now he's like directing, executive producing, and it all just came out of him writing about what he knows.
And I think that as writers, we're afraid of writing what we know sometimes because it's just too close. And I think there's a tendency to want to escape. But if we actually embrace where we came from and we put that into the script, like it's going to resonate.
Walk me through that. Like, why are writers too afraid to touch their own reality? Like, why is it really that hard to put it on paper? I mean, especially if you're writing fiction, like
Hmm.
because you can hide behind the characters you've written, even though it might be your story or something like that. But do people still really avoid that?
I think so. And I think my theory is that we are so afraid to like look at our own flaws because if you want to write a story about, any character, like that character has to stay active. And when we look at ourselves, we don't want to acknowledge our flaws because it's scary.
I have no flaws.
No, me neither. I'm perfect. But we don't want to acknowledge it. So we tend to write reactive characters that aren't moving the story forward because you have to really embrace who they are and how their flaws are guiding their actions. And to be able to write your own story like that, you have to look at yourself with like, you have to put yourself under a microscope and really like see how are my flaws moving my life forward, and what am I doing wrong that is causing me to like get into this shit, and how what do I have to change about myself to be able to triumph over that, which is that's just story structure. Like how do you take someone with a flaw and put them through a journey that challenges that flaw, and how do they grow as a result, right? That's just storytelling.
Or crash and burn.
Right, exactly. Or, it can be a cautionary tale too. But to do that about yourself, you have to like A, go to therapy to be able to see it, and then have the courage to actually still love yourself while looking at yourself that way. And that's hard. And I think that's why we'd rather just like write about other characters from different parts of the world with different jobs, with different struggles, because that way we can just hide behind them and it's more polite to ourselves. But I think the real like the best thing that we can do for ourselves as writers is to actually sit in that real shit,
Hmm.
and as horrible as it can be, like really write about our own flaws. And I think when we do that, when we do like tap into our worst fears, our worst traumas, and we put that shit on the page, it becomes more authentic. But it's scary. It's really scary. Depending on what you've been through, it can be really horrifying.
You sound pretty comfortable with it.
I feel like I'm getting there now. I was avoiding it for like 4 or 5 years, and then I kept getting the same note in my workshop lab, which was like, "You're not digging deep enough." And I resisted that for like 5 months, and I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'll just write about my coming out story." And now here I am, and I feel like a different person as a result of it. But it comes with like you have to be really objective, and you can't let yourself be a victim in your story. Even if you were a victim of an event, you have to look at how that experience mutated you as a person, and how that has impacted your ability to communicate and to like be authentic in your and how you show up for other people. And that is scary, but once you do it, your characters will feel more real and people are going to connect to them because of that reason. I think Fleabag, if you've seen Fleabag, is a great example of that. Like
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, and it's not a true story, but like it's based on her as a person, right? And she's like, I am a horrible person, and I'm just writing about how horrible I am,
Yeah.
and then everybody watches it and they're like, oh my god, I'm not alone. I'm also horrible. There's something very liberating about like seeing your worst flaws represented and still knowing that you're gonna be fine. And I think that's what's beautiful about storytelling. Is like you see if you're properly and authentically represented, you can sort of see like where those things you're afraid of, like, tapping into are, like, kind of universal, and you're gonna be okay, but it just takes time, and you have to learn to let go of perfectionism as a writer, and you have to learn to, just embrace your worst shit and put that on the page, and it makes you honest as a writer.
Wow.
Mm. Eh.
That's pretty heavy.
That's what I love about the craft too. That's what I love about dramas, especially.
Yeah, it's gonna be you've had a lot of life experience. I think like you're really able to kind of grasp the layers that color us all, right?
I think so. I mean, I think the more trauma you go through, the better you will be at the craft.
Yeah. Well, I think now it's very funny that we have to end it here, I think, so that you can get back to AFI.
Right. Back to reality.
But thank you so much for swinging by the podcast today. And it's going to be incredibly exciting to watch your career, because everyone who comes on the podcast, we're like building a big family of like people who are doing amazing things. And now you get to be part of it and I get to witness it. So I'm super thankful.
Thank you so much.
And anytime you have a project coming out or you've got something new, just, if you want to just talk about it.
I would love to. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you so much. I appreciate that.
No worries. So now we'll just go up here, show people we're in the same room. Very nice to meet you.
Likewise.
And best of luck with the rest of your studies and all your scripts.
Thank you so much, and you too.
No worries.
Crush it.
Okay. And we're out. Fade to black.
Fade to black.